few seats left in the front row. Hi everyone, thank you for being here. Who is new to the Hive tonight? Great, welcome.
Like 5 people.
Yeah. So everyone knows about us, so I don't need to, no. I'm going to just say a few words because we have some really interesting upcoming events. So as most of you know, the Hive think tank is the largest big data community in the US, and you are part of this community. We are a group of 7,000 members, so thank you for being part of this great community. These are our upcoming events. Next one is sold out already, but but we might have some people who change their mind last minute, so make sure to follow on Meetup if there are any seats available. It's going to be one of the, I mean, maybe I say that every week, but it's going to be one of our best events, but tonight too, so. So those are our upcoming events. Then we are hosting an event in France for the first time in the city of Grenoble. And Ravi is going to be presenting there too, so in French hopefully. And then we'll see you again here on May 6th in the South Bay. I would like to say, if you haven't gotten a chance to check out the Cloudera table, they have the H-Base conference coming up on May 7th, and if you come by the booth, you'll have a reduction, discounts to get to the conference. So did you want to say a few words, Justin, about the conference?
Only that if you have any interest in Apache HBase at all, you cannot miss this conference. All the committers will be there. The world's biggest users, developers, and operators will be there. So please come on May 7th. It's a single-day conference, and you'll love it, I guarantee it.
Thank you. Thanks. And we'd like to thank our sponsors tonight, especially Cloudera, of course, and Perkins Squee for hosting us. So, Christopher, I'll just let you say a few words about Perkins Squee.
Thanks. So my name is Chris Cow. I'm the managing partner of the Palo Alto office of Perkins Coie. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are an international law firm with about 1,000 lawyers with 19 offices in the US and in Asia. And this office in Palo Alto focuses primarily on representing emerging companies, startup companies in the Valley and elsewhere, and also on patent prosecution, IP, obtaining IP for clients and companies. And then what I do, which is litigation, primarily IP litigation, including patent litigation. So on behalf of Perkins Coie, we welcome you to the firm. Thank you for coming. And thank you, the Hive, for putting on a great event. And we look forward to a great speech tonight by Mike Olson. So welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is Cloudera a client?
Cloudera is a client, in fact. I have known Mike.
Given that you asked that question, I'm glad the answer is yes. That would have been embarrassing.
And we've worked with Mike for many years. So welcome to Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before I hand over the microphone to Ravi, I would just like to encourage you to continue the discussion online. We have a lot of activity online on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. But if you use Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag HiveData, and we can answer questions if you want to take pictures. So it's always great to have your comments online. So hashtag HiveData. There's a Wi-Fi, and the password is here on the board. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Pashu and Mike Tapp. So thank you. We are excited to have all of you, and I'll talk more about Mike in a few minutes. You know about the Hive. We incubate, we fund, we launch companies, everything. So we don't compete with folks like Cloudera. So we are very focused on applications and use cases that drive the need and demand for Hadoop and other infrastructure components. What's unique about us is we have a set of people in-house at the Hive. You know, people who've been serial entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, technologists. I saw Mohan somewhere. Where is Mohan? Not this Mohan, another Mohan.
He says there's only one.
We'll have Mohan give a talk sometime. And so they work closely with entrepreneurs to, especially for the first 15, 18 months, to give the company momentum across all the different areas, functions of the business. And of course, in addition to that, we fund these companies. We've been making some noise recently, so we sold Kosei. Many of you know Lance Riddell. And Lance started his previous company at Cloudera when they were next to Fry's Electronics, and which was sold to Jive Software. And after hanging out at Jive for some time, became the founding CTO of the Hive, and then got together with another guy called Yuri Leskovec, who is a faculty member at Stanford. So anyway, Pinterest bought that company in January. We sold a company 2 weeks back called Deep Forest Media in the mobile DSP and cross-device sort of targeting space to Rakuten. We have recently funded a company in the augmented AR, in the AR/VR space, called Augmented Pixels. This one was a courageous one for us to do. We moved this company from Ukraine to our office in Palo Alto. And they're developing applications for real estate, for retail. So it's very cool. You know, you can take an empty room and just pick furniture from a store and visualize it through either a tablet or a kind of like an Oculus type glass, and you can see the whole room full of furniture. So very interesting. I saw a few people from E8 Security. They just closed a Series A round of financing a few weeks back. And then we talked about us raising some money. They didn't give credit to us. They gave credit to Jerry Yang and Paul Moritz. But we are excited to have those two individuals as investors in the Hive. So those are some of our companies that we've invested in. We have a summer internship program and have had a number of great students there. Chandra's daughter was there sometime, maybe 2 years back, even last year with E8. So there are 4 areas where we are looking for interns around blockchain, around deep learning. Index of everything is basically the ability to also take into account not just physical objects, but virtual objects, and index them all. And we have a lot of interest around image and video. So if you know any incredibly smart college students, we would love to engage with them. Our IoT company, it's a company that enables an app store-like paradigm for Internet of Things, is hiring a bunch of engineering people, including a CTO. So if you're interested, reach out to us. Use the hashtag HiveData. There's a lot of people outside this room who are also following the conversation, and if you want them to hear what you're saying, use the hashtag. I'm incredibly excited to have Mike Olson here tonight, friend of the Hive. Mike has significant accomplishments, especially in the database area. He's going to talk a lot about Cloudera today, but of course, as a founder, as the CEO till 2013, now VP of Strategy at Cloudera. He did he did Sleepy Cat, which was the Berkeley DB company, which was sold to Oracle. He's been at Illustra. He's been at, who knows Britton Lee?
Old guys.
We used to work with this woman, Paula Hawthorne,
Yep.
who drove us crazy, but she worked at Britton Lee.
Michael Bell.
And she said, "You guys find your database? You know nothing about database." So you know, his oh, and one important thing, he went to Berkeley. He did he studied at Berkeley, and his professor just got the Turing Award. And so that's a huge thing. And so I'm not going to say much about Cloudera because I'll give him a chance to talk about Cloudera, but it's an incredible story of how to take software that is free, and you're not the only one who's trying to sort of monetize it. There are a whole bunch of other guys. His old company Pivotal, and I don't see any Mappa people here today, or Hortonworks people. So everyone's trying to do it. So that's an incredible story as to how to do that. And at least the last time I heard, they raised a boatload of money, and at massive valuations, many times what an IPO would be, with people like Intel and others investing. So they are set for a long time. So the format we'll have today is we'll have Mike talk for about 40 minutes or so, and then I'll just moderate a Q&A. So I'll ask a few questions, and hopefully you'll ask a few questions. And there are many people here who are interested in how to create an enterprise startup in this sort of consumer world we live in. You hear about just Instagram and Pinterest and this and that, and in that world, how do you build an enterprise company? So with that, please join me in giving a hand to Mike Olson.
Am I live? Can you guys? Is my microphone on?
You just have to, yeah. Perfect.
Check.
Good.
Nothing's lit up.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm dead?
It's still
Robbie, you want to slide?
I'm going to stop.
Lobby is your left, back left pocket.
Got too many pockets.
Repeat that.
Sure. Sorry about that.
No. The good thing about this is Ravi can't ask any questions now.
He is loud though.
All right, so listen, if I do this right, as you heard, I'll talk for maybe 40, 45 minutes, and then we'll go to Q&A. And I'll use the 40 or 45 minutes to try to seed topics that I think you folks will find interesting. As you heard, I'm a database guy by training. I'm an engineer by inclination. I was wired to write C code at a very early age. That's no longer a saleable skill. Luckily, I went over to the dark side. I started doing sales and marketing and started customer-facing work. I switched from developing software into management and customer-facing roles when I was at a company called Illustra. We commercialized the Postgres code that came out of UC Berkeley in the middle 1990s. That company got acquired by Informix in 1996, and I spent a little bit of time there before leaving and joining Sleepycat. Sleepycat was started by Margot Seltzer, who's currently on the faculty at Harvard, and Keith Bostick. The three of us were all at Berkeley simultaneously. Keith was on staff, and Margot and I were both database students for Stonebreaker. Bostick at the time was working on a version of Unix from Berkeley that you didn't have to pay AT&T license money for. So he wanted an entirely unencumbered version of the Unix operating system. So he would go around and ask people if they would rewrite pieces of Berkeley Unix and basically give them to him. Margot and I were database people. I used to run a Friday afternoon study group at the Triple Rock Brew Pub in Berkeley. And I would convene a group of people there, and we would do a lot of hardcore research. Keith used to come to those meetings and ask us, Margot and I, if we would write a version of the DBM library, the embedded database library in Berkeley Unix. And Margot and I are like, we got a job, right? We're both graduate students. There's no reason for us to do this thing. Keith was so persistent that we finally agreed to do it, just kind of to get him off of our backs. I will say, Keith was so persistent that Margot eventually married him. So keep asking, I guess. The two of them took that original version of DBM, later called Berkeley DB, and continued to develop and enhance it. And we'd done the work in 1991. By 1998, when I was sort of looking around for a thing to do after being at Informix and then messing around a little bit, Margot called me up. She said, yeah, you remember this software we wrote called Berkeley DB? I'm like, no, I don't remember that. She said, no, we wrote a Usenix paper about it. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I remember we wrote a paper about it. Well, I went and looked in the Usenix proceedings, and indeed, there was a paper there that we both authored. She and Keith had continued to enhance that software. They'd actually gotten some commercial interest, and they'd even struck a deal with Netscape Communications to pay them to do a bunch of NRE. Berkeley DB was open source. And at that time, there were precisely 0 examples of a successful open source company in the world. Nobody believed that you could build a business. At the time, just for clarity, Red Hat was selling CDs and T-shirts for money. That was the state of the art in open source business models back in the day. Keith and Margot crafted an unusual strategy. So Berkeley DB, out of Berkeley, had this very permissive license. Anybody could pick it up and change it, take it proprietary, enhance it, embed it in their own technology. No royalties. You just had to say something nice about the university. That was the only requirement. You were allowed to relicense it if you wanted to under your proprietary license, any terms you liked. Keith had this, in retrospect, genius idea. You could relicense it however you wanted to. He took it and essentially relicensed it under the GPL. So now you've got this library that carries viral license terms, GPL license terms, which means that you can pick it up, you can use it, you can enhance it, but if you embed it in your software, if you ship it to anybody, you have to open source your thing too, right? It infects the code that uses it. We didn't use the word infect at the time, but that was the effect. So here's the really smart part. SleepyCat, the company that Keith and Martin created, owned the copyright in the code. They'd written basically all of it. They could sell you the antidote to that GPL license. If you merely paid them money, they would sell you other terms under which you could distribute the software. So they offered the first ever dual license strategy. So free for anybody who wanted to give their source code away. If you were a traditional software ISV OEM style vendor, you could merely apply some money to the problem and ship proprietary software. That was the first time, I think, that anybody had really figured out a way to monetize open source that didn't basically rely on a crappy version for free and a good version for money. That was the founding of SleepyCat. Keith and Margot actually were interested in, we were in the late 90s, interested in finding some money for the company, getting some backing. And we went around and talked to venture capitalists who all responded with the same basic response, which was, are you kidding me? The software is free, and somehow you guys are going to make money on volume? Right? I don't understand. Right? So we couldn't raise any money. The result was we built a very, very unusual business for the times. Remember, this is like the dot-com boom. Everybody's going nuts. Sock puppets are raising billions of dollars. We basically grew our business on revenue. Right? Unheard of at the time. So we took no investment. Frankly, we could get no investment. So we went out and we sold a bunch of deals. At the end of every year, right, we would have made more than we had to spend. We would hire additional staff as the business grew. We were privately held, owned by just 4 people, me, Keith, Margot, and one other engineer, Mike Ubell, whom some of you database folks may know. It was an unusual business at the time for a lot of reasons. Because we were privately held and had no outside investors, the end of the year would roll around, we'd have a big wad of cash in the bank, we'd bonus all of our employees basically proportionally to their stock option holdings in the company. So it's kind of like they were getting a dividend. And then we would pay ourselves the rest of the money. We'd keep a couple $1 million in the bank to run the company for a couple quarters while we went out and sold a bunch more software. If you talk to people about these sort of slow growth, organic, bootstrap companies now, people say lifestyle business like it's an insult, right? The cash lifestyle's kind of nice, I gotta say. Plus, we didn't have to put up with non-technical people driving our business. There are good reasons to put up with that, as you'll hear when I segue to Cloudera. There are lots of reasons you want to do that. But look, we knew the customers we were talking to, we knew what they needed, we felt we were the best possible arbiters of what they desired, and we had the freedom to make those decisions, to make the investments that we chose to make. And it was a fantastic story. We grew the business for a bunch of years. We got to a respectable revenue level that we've never publicly disclosed. But look, I mean, we had a good little company. What we didn't think we could do would be grow it globally. We didn't think we were going to be able to open operations in Japan and Korea and significantly across Europe. We've been sucking cash out of the company for a bunch of years, right? We needed money to do all that stuff. Nobody's spouse thought it was a good idea to put all the money back in. As a result, we decided we had two options. We could go raise venture capital, or we could pursue strategic investment. So find basically a company to buy us and let them grow the business. And we hired bankers to pursue those two options simultaneously. Here's what we discovered. Every single venture capital, and I'm sorry, I should dial back to this. But like 99, 2000, it was impossible for us to raise money. You know, 2002, the company's starting to throw off respectable cash. All the embedded database players imploded in the .com bust, except kind of for us. So, you know, it had been a market with 18 people, and now there's us and one or two others still standing. The venture capitalists are beating on our doors, right? We'd love to help you guys. And we're like, we don't really know what we do with your damn money anymore. By the time sort of 2005 rolled around, we knew we couldn't continue to grow the business the way that we had. So, look, we need cash. Either we raise venture capital or we sell the business. The downside to venture capital were pretty considerable from our point of view. First of all, we would no longer be able to decide to do whatever the hell we wanted, right? We'd have a real board telling us what we really needed to do. Secondly, that thing where we pulled out all the cash at the end of the year, yeah, not so much, right? That was going to stop as well. Because we would still be privately held, there was still a bunch of go-forward risk. Would we succeed in growing internationally? Could we build a great business? So in parallel to the VC discussions, we ran strategic, basically the bank went out and pitched the business to a number of prospective buyers. I would say we talked to a lot of companies. I disclose nothing that is dangerous to disclose when I say that lots of interest, none of it deep, except from Oracle. Except from Oracle. And I got to tell you, it surprised us a little bit, right? I would not have bet that Oracle Corp would look at our very proud of it, but pretty small embedded database company and be excited about bringing us in. Now, some good stuff about it. We had a really good team of technical people. We had cred in the open source sector, which, you know, middle 2000s is sort of some value. And it turned out that Oracle was interested in building out a portfolio of embedded technologies at the time. Long story short, although it had not been anybody's pick as the favorite to get the deal done, we were very pleased with the deal that we were able to put together with the folks at Oracle Corp. To the extent that the entire SleepyCat Berkeley DB engineering team still in place, including many of the original SleepyCat engineers, but there are a lot more engineers from Oracle working on Berkeley DB now. It is a piece of the Oracle product portfolio, including Oracle's NoSQL engine, right? So the company has done a lot with it. I joined Oracle after the transaction as Vice President of Embedded Technologies. I had a very good time at Oracle. Mostly what I did was fly around the world and help the Oracle field understand how to sell these embedded things, right? Very different from the traditional Oracle database. I met a lot of very smart people. I enjoyed my time there a great deal. I've said in public before, and I think it's even been tweeted, so I probably can't be busted if I say it again, but I I was not able to get an expense report rejected in the entire 2 years that I was there. And it's not like I didn't try. Oracle treats its acquired company CEOs very, very well. I made a lot of very valuable relationships. In 2008, I left Oracle thinking I would take about a year off. My sense of boredom welled up, and I got about 5 months into that before I had decided what I was going to do next. I'll segue to the Cloudera story in a minute, but I want to set it up in this way. Google did the original work on scale-out storage, the Google file system, and on its processing framework, MapReduce, in the early half of the 2000s. Short out the second microphone here. So the Google file system paper was published in 2000, 2001. The MapReduce paper was published in 2004. Everybody I knew in the database industry read them at the time. And call me on this. You guys, it was a joke, right? I mean, no query language.
Mohan still
no
thinks it's a joke.
You guys, we know how to build large-scale, mission-critical database management. This Google crap? Are you kidding me? I was like, you just pat the little guys on the head. Yeah, that's nice. You go play with your toys. We're going to deliver stuff to banks over here, man. What we didn't understand at the time was that Google wasn't trying to solve our problem, right? It wasn't aimed at OLTP or OLAP or sort of ODS problems. It was a new class of scale-out, very flexible analytic and processing workloads that Google needed to support. And fundamentally, it needed to scale incrementally to thousands. We always brag in the database industry about our ability to design scalable systems. We mean to like 8, right? You don't really get big in traditional databases. And look, I mean, big global shared namespaces with shared locking infrastructure, that's just expensive and hard to make work. Hadoop was, actually Google MapReduce, was really the first system that I looked at that scaled like not messing around to 1,000, right? It just got really, really big incrementally. That was transformative. When I left Oracle, I decided I don't want to be a database guy anymore. I've been working in the industry since 1986 when I was at Britton Lake. I frankly competed with Larry Olson for 25 years. It sucked. We finally sold the guy a company, racked that up as a W. I decided I want to go do something else next. And in 2008, because I wasn't going to be a database guy anymore, I gave myself permission to take a hard look at Hadoop. And I got to talk to folks at Facebook and at Yahoo and at Google who had been using it in production. And I want to tell you guys, it was like one day, you know, the heavens part, the light shine down, the angels sing, right? It's like, oh my God, I see. It was no more than a week. No more than a week between sitting down and talking with Jeff Hammerbacher at Facebook and realizing why this platform we had totally misunderstood, right? So I believed then that there was a big opportunity to build a company delivering this software to enterprises. And I did what you do in Silicon Valley when you have an insight. You quickly go look for competitors, right? So I walk around, I talk to everybody I could find. I go to Google, you know, hey Chris, do you know anybody who's doing anything with this MapReduce stuff? And I talked to the venture capitalists I knew. I found 3 other people who believed as I believed and were going to start a Hadoop company. Christoph Ischilia at Google, Amr Awadallah at Yahoo, and Hammerbacher, the guy who had clued me in at Facebook. All 3 had decided that they were going to go make a Hadoop company happen. Kind of early, middle summer 2008 at this point, and I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, you know, so there's going to be 4 companies pursuing a $0 billion market. And you know we're going to have to compete on price, right? It's going to suck. It's going to suck. So my mission that summer was to convince those other guys that we should roll our 4 companies into one, collapse our cap tables, and just have one company in the space. And there were some pairwise relationships, but the group didn't know everybody well. Nobody had worked together before. So it's kind of a risky thing, right? I mean, one of the lessons I learned at SleepyCat, as great as that company was like 4 founders, you guys, is a mistake. It's too many people in the room. And then I go do this damn thing again, right? Jeff, Amr, Christoph, and I spent the summer dating, right? Convincing ourselves that we were going to be able to build a company together. We succeeded in that conviction by sort of August of the summer. We agreed as a team we were going to come together. Almost came true. Christoph wound up leaving Cloudera in 2010, but the other three of us still around, all in very, very different roles from the founding, of course. But so by the end of August, you know, look each other in the eyes, you know, spit on your hand, shake them, blood brother stuff. We decided we would have one company. We spent September kind of writing a strategy document and a business plan, which is a very amusing act of work of historical fiction when I read it now. We put together a pitch deck in the latter part of September. And then we were going to go out and talk to venture capitalists. And of course, we kept the VCs warm during the period. We, you know, made sure they knew who we were, what we were doing. There was one investor in the Valley who had decided that he was going to fund a Hadoop company, right? Ping Lee at Excel had gotten all excited about what Hadoop could do, and he was going to put money into somebody's Hadoop company. So I had spent the summer taking all the Hadoop talent off the market, right? I mean, I better go get the money as well, right? I knew Excel, but not Ping from previous life. But we had a really good conversation. I mean, basically what we said was, if you guys excel, will give us a fair founder deal, then we won't shop this thing, right? We'll just do the deal with you. If you make us feel like, you know, we're not getting good value, hey, look, we got to get a market price, we're going to go out and do it. Ping was excited by the team we put together. He knew Jeff a little bit. He was really excited to do that. By the middle of October, early October, we had a term sheet. We burned through diligence. And like October 14 or something of 2008, $5 million from Excel, bam, you know, hit the big thump in your bank account, right? It's a resounding Silicon Valley sound. Like 2 days later, Lehman Brothers declares bankruptcy. You guys laugh. You know what happened? Sand Hill Road closed. Just nothing, man. If you knew how to turn lead into gold, you could not get money. Right? There was no money. So, you know, I mean, for all of us individually, it's a pretty sucky time, right? You know, your houses are risky. For Cloudera, it's awesome. We got $5 million of cash in the bank and no prospect of competition. Simultaneously, every large enterprise on the planet is trying to figure out how to drive cost out of its IT. And we got this scale-out, inexpensive storage infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
I like to say that it is important to be good throughout your career because sooner or later you will get lucky. and really, I mean, I feel like that's what happened to us, right? Our instincts were good on the technology. Sorry, I just want to go to my notes and be sure I'm hitting everything. Our instincts were good on the technology, but our timing was really, really fortunate. End of 2008, early 2009, Hadoop wasn't a thing. The only people who knew about it were working generally in engineering and consumer internet companies. A few of those folks are in the room tonight. But by and large, no one in the market had ever heard of this technology. The meme of big data had not yet happened, right? Those words hadn't yet broken. In fact, Chris helped me deal with the company who owns the trademark on the term big data, who lodged a letter into us that we needed to do. Did you guys know that that's a protected term?
No.
Yeah. I've got a salute that doesn't involve all of these fingers for the people on that. Look, those words, those ideas hadn't percolated in the market yet. The result was, you know, we're in market with this geeky open source technology where every single piece of it's named after an animal. You should never let engineers name stuff. No one really understands what it's for. Right? Our early sales were all super, super evangelical, right? Explaining first of all why data mattered to you, and then hey, by the way, there's this cool new technology. It's open source, and it can help your thing. Oh, by the way, we're an open source company, so let me tell you how that works, right? The folks that we did business with earliest came in a couple of camps. There were the web companies, broadly, consumer internet. You think of online music folks and ad placement folks, and they totally knew what the software was, and they had been rubbing themselves raw trying to keep it in production, and they heard that Cloudera was in the market. They could pay some support money to somebody, and like a guy would show up if something broke, right? So we got to do some early deals with those folks. And then there were some forward-looking, more traditional enterprises that were keeping their eyes on emerging technologies and looking for promising stuff that they'd use in the data center. Financial services and telecommunications are legendary as early adopters of technology, and they lived up to it in this case. So they, a few large banks and a couple of large telcos engaged with us early. Now, 2008, 2009, we bundled up those open source bits. We've got CDH1 available, and it was really just HDFS and MapReduce. There was nothing else in the box at the time. Still very hard to use. Our packaging was the main thing that basically we plowed our engineering effort into. And then we said we sold support contracts. But early on, the support contracts were pretty much, you tell us what you need and we're going to show up and work with you to make that happen. We used those early engagements to figure out what product opportunities we had in the market. That was important. We always intended to be a product company, a software company. There are now a number of players in the market around to do. Our strategy is distinct, we believe, from all others. And in fact, all of the vendors differ from one another in significant ways. But let me describe Cloudera's philosophy and